Oh, yes, that's Mr. Guerra, and that's yours. Okay.
I guess that's my cue. Good evening. Thank you all for attending. Thank you all for coming to today's meeting being held today. Today is August 15th. The time is 6:04. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance being read by Rosalinda and Justo Mendoza, students at Belo Elementary.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda, Superintendent's comments. Dr. Espinosa.
Yes, President Guerra, members of the board, on behalf of Team SISD, I'd like to wish a very happy birthday to Trustee Mr. Michael Nájera, whose special day is today, August 15th, Mr. Nájera.
He's getting older by the day.
Yes. Trustee Nájera, you should be proud of your age. This year, you are wiser, smarter, but still not eligible for senior citizens discount at restaurants. So you'll have to wait a few years for that, okay?
I just take Mr. Gonzalez with me.
That's not a good start to the night.
It always gives me a great pleasure to welcome and introduce our newest members to our elite leadership team. So when I call your name, please stand to be recognized. We have Ms. Elida Gomez, who is our new assistant principal at Herschel Antoine. We have Ms. Nora Macias, our new assistant principal at Myrtle Cooper. We have Mr. Michael Beltran, who's our new assistant principal at Socorro High School. And Mr. Carlos Guerra, who is our new principal at Montwood High School. I know that all of these superstar leaders will make a tremendous positive impact on their school community. So congratulations to all. Our summer school graduation will be on Tuesday, August 22nd at 5:30 at Pebble Hills High School. We continue to work hard at leaving no child behind in SISD, so all of our graduations are a testament of Team SISD's commitment to student success. So thank you so much, parents, staff, and board members, for working together to make this happen. And I'm happy to report that we have over about 750 more students enrolled this year than what we had last year. And like I tell people, Socorro ISD is a destination school district. You know, people move to this area specifically for our schools, and we are very, very proud of that. So again, thank you to all of Team SISD for helping us become the district of choice here in El Paso, Texas. President Guerra, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Espinosa. Next item, board honors, Mr. Escobar.
Good evening, President Guerra, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Espinosa. My name is Daniel Escobar, Chief Communications Officer for the district, and it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's recognitions. If you'll please step down to receive our honorees. Our first recognition is in honor of SISD students and their teachers who were selected as winners in the 2017-18 Peter Piper Pizza Calendar Contest. The students were among 22 artists chosen for the calendar out of thousands of entries from all Peter Piper pizza markets in Texas and southern New Mexico. The young artists had their artwork featured in the popular calendar, which is sold and distributed to thousands of customers in the region. Congratulations to these outstanding young artists and their teachers. We had 6 winners from Sanchez Middle School. Those students are in other activities this evening. They weren't able to join us, but representing them is their teacher, Ms. Laura Sandoval. We also had 2 additional winners from Jane A. Hambrick School. Representing them is student Carla Chavez. And her teacher is Josie Veal. If we can have the 3 of you please come to the front for a photo with Superintendent and Board of Trustees. And just a quick note, as they're gathering for that photo, that all of the photos taken by our district photographer, Mr. Largo, will be posted on the district website, where they are available for free high-resolution download.
Ready, 1, 2, 3.
Congratulations once again. Our next recognition is in honor of the Pebble Hills High School NJROTC for being named the 3rd best unit in the nation. And absolutely, please. And the 2017 Area 9 Most Outstanding Unit. Pebble Hills earned the 3rd place award from among 672 NJROTC units nationwide and were selected as a distinguished unit with academic honors for their high level of performance the past 6 years. The award-winning unit is composed of students from Montwood, El Dorado, and Pebble Hills High Schools, who together have earned more than 9,500 combined community service hours for contributions of work in the community. Representing this award-winning unit are the student commanding officers and their instructors. They are Battalion Commander Ashley Alfaro, Executive Officer Jeffrey Anaya, Operations Officer Stephanie Maldonado, Command Master Chief Delaya Caraballo Rodriguez, their instructors are Naval Science Instructor Anthony Arellano, and Senior Naval Science Instructor Justo Mendoza. If we can have you all please return to the front for a photo.
Ready? Ready, 1, 2, 3.
Congratulations once again. Our special presentation this evening is in honor of the 2017 Facilities Advisory Committee. The committee represented a diverse group including parents, employees, volunteers, businesses, elected officials, and taxpayers as a whole. The board-appointed FAC met for 2 months assessing district facilities, demographics, touring campuses, and ancillary facilities, and working in partnership with staff. The committee worked transparently and effectively as charged in the FAC Charter to provide insight and a recommendation to the SISD Board of Trustees. The FAC members' valuable work, time, and dedication to assist Team SISD in developing a plan to continue providing top-notch, equitable facilities and endless opportunities for our students is greatly appreciated. The FAC members that were able to join us tonight are Mr. Elias Ayub, Jennifer Campbell, Greg De Anda, Josh Carter, Hank Green, Simone Hendricks, Deborah Herbert, James Cotter, Alejandro Garcia, Aaron Ruth, Marcella Van Hoove, Holly Yeager, and Oscar Hernandez. She was exiled. Off the island. You good over here? All right, we're going to have you hold your certificates up, if you don't mind. You'll be all right. Oh, it's over there? Hey, Christy, can you give me Mr. De Anda's certificate? Congratulations once again, and thank you so much. That concludes our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
I said I'll see you down there.
Sorry?
I'll see you down there.
Are you dead? For work. My daughter's planning on moving to Virginia. I don't know yet. Nick's gone on a job interview.
Our next item is open forum. We have no speakers, so we'll move on to number 7, public hearing. Mr. Tony Reza.
Yes, President Guerra, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. Tonight, the administration is conducting a public hearing on the proposed tax rate for the 2017 and 18 school year or fiscal year. The time and date of this hearing was published in the El Paso Times. the purpose of which is to provide the public with information on the proposed tax rate and allow the stakeholders of the school district to provide feedback to the governing board. First, submitted for your review and the public's information is the 2017-18 fiscal year budget that was adopted by the board back in June. As you can see, the total budget adopted was $448.4 million. It's comprised of the general fund, the school lunch program, and our debt service fund. So, first, the district's general fund and debt service fund local tax collections were based on the assumption that our net taxable values would be $8,910,797,202, or a 4.1% increase. Our actual certified taxable values came in at $9.025 billion, or a 5.44% increase from the prior year. So this resulted in our projected revenues increasing by over $1 million. The district's tax rate is comprised, to be discussed and approved tonight, is comprised of two parts. It's important for the public to know what they are. First, the maintenance and operations tax rate, which is sometimes called the M&O tax rate. This goes to support the ongoing maintenance and operations of the school district and is recorded in the general fund of the district. It is important to note that the governing board can approve a tax rate up to $1.04 without voter approval, but at any rate higher than $1.04 must be ratified by the voters through a tax ratification election, which is also referred to as a TRE. The highest tax rate allowed under state law for maintenance and operation is $1.17. The second part of the total tax rate is the interest and sinking fund tax rate. This is sometimes called the INS tax rate, and it goes to paying and supporting the repayment of debt service incurred to build campuses and other capital projects approved by the voters via a bond election. It is recorded in the debt service fund, and it is important to remember that when the Board of Trustees approves this part of the tax rate, they are really affirming the tax rate that's already been approved by the voters of this school district. The highest tax rate that can be approved for the interest and sinking fund, which is allowed by state law, is 50 cents. Now, as mentioned before and required by section 44.044 of the Texas Education Code, the administration published a notice of this public hearing in the El Paso Times on Monday, July the 31st. It listed the notice, on that notice it listed the time and date of this particular hearing with the intent to adopt the following tax rates. That for maintenance and operation, a tax rate of 0.981640 per $100 of assessed valuations. That for the interest and sinking fund, a tax rate of 0.293154 per $100 of assessed valuations. For a total tax rate of 1.274794, this is no change in the total tax rate from the prior year. The governing board will consider approving these proposed tax rates and the resolutions that sets those tax rates later tonight. Presented for the audience and for the board is a historical timeline of the tax rates that have been adopted by the board since 2011. As you can see, in 2011-12, the district increased the interest and sinking fund to address the first sale of bonds from the 2011 bond election. In 2012 and 13, we again increased the INS tax rate to cover the remaining bond issuances. We also increased the maintenance and operations tax rate to increase additional revenue because of the loss in state funding at that time. Please note that the district has had the same tax rate for the last 5 years, and if the board approves the proposed tax rate set for 2017-18, it will be 6 years in a row that the Socorro Independent School District has had a total tax rate of $1.27. And I think that's a proud achievement, surely for Dr. Espinosa and the governing board. And this should be applauded by the community. With respect to a comparison of the tax rates for Socorro ISD in comparison to the surrounding school districts, this is a listing of the tax rates for those surrounding school districts. The governing boards for each respective school district may or may not approve the tax rate that are listed before you. But as you can see, Socorro ISD has a projected tax rate that's the third lowest in the region. And it also has the lowest maintenance and operation tax rate. As published in the El Paso Times, presented is a tax impact on the average tax owner for the Socorro Independent School District. For the 6th year in a row, there is no increase in the property tax rate that is levied. However, there is an increase in the average taxable value, and this results in a tax impact of $20.50. Also listed is a district's rollback rate. This is the highest tax rate that the Board of Trustees can adopt without holding a tax ratification election. And that's at $1.30. So are there any questions from the governing board with respect to the information that we've presented to you tonight?
Any questions?
I have questions.
Mr. Nahara?
Mr. Reza, so, based on the information that you just presented us, basically the 29 cents or the 29 cents, the 29 cents,
Yes, sir.
we're just affirming that rate, right? Because basically we either adopt that rate or we don't have the ability to pay the debt that, we, as a community, voted to approve, correct?
That's
So
correct,
we
sir.
have no control over the 29 cents if we want to, continue to maintain the financially sound district that we are, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Mr. Reza, let me ask you another question, if I may. If, let's say that, because our property tax values went up 5%, right, or a little over 5%, and I think they were at 9 billion. What if they went up to 100 billion? Would we all of a sudden have a windfall of money here at the district that we could just buy everybody everything with?
No, sir. First of all, there's an effective tax rate calculation that we have to calculate, and it's set by the government to protect the taxpayer. So certainly, if there's an increase that's pretty substantial, we would have to probably lower the tax rate for the interest and sinking fund, and maybe even for M&O. But at that point in time, we would have to reduce our revenues to make sure that the taxpayer isn't, for the lack of a better word, gouged with respect to property taxes. And there's a certain amount that we can generate to be able to pay back those taxes. It depends. So there's mechanisms in place to certainly to protect the taxpayer should there be a significant increase in the values of the homeowner.
Okay. And I wish I had it with me, but I recently saw a graphic, and it was a graphic over maybe the last 10 years, maybe the last 17 since 2000, and basically it showed that local communities are have recently been, had to pay a greater share of the funding for the school districts, whereas the state has retreated, and even as property values have gone up as they have in ours, and it's interesting that I see that ours are still growing, which is good for us, because some of the other local entities have gone down. That also poses a challenge because, as our property values goes up, the state lowers their funding, so it's not like all of a sudden we have more extra money, but rather we're trying to make up for funding that we're not getting. Do I remember that right, or did I misinterpret that?
So with respect to K-12 education funding, the state's level of support has gone down significantly from 2005, when they pretty much put in about 48% of the total pot. Now it's going down to about 38%. And the reason for that is that, if you don't change the formula that significantly, but the school district's share, which is based on their tax rate and their property values, keep going up significantly, and the state is also getting money from the property wealthy school district through recapture, their share goes down, our share, I should say, the taxpayer share starts going up. And it's something that we'd hope that the legislature, particularly the Senate, would look into and hopefully provide additional funding for school districts, and as well as being able to support and provide relief, tax relief, meaningful tax relief to the taxpayers of our school districts and our counties and our cities. But you're right, that state support has gone down, and so luckily we're in a position where we've been growing and being able to be very certainly diligent with respect to our tax dollars to be able to sustain this growth and being able to make sure that we don't increase the tax rate for the citizens of our school district. But the bottom line is that we're doing that while state support for our funding is going down vis-a-vis local tax dollars. So, I hope that answered your questions.
It did. Thank you, Mr. Reza. Could we go back 2 slides? I just wanted to look at our tax rates again. Right there. I'm sorry. Yeah, right there. Okay. So again, the 29 cents is stuff that, the 29 cent is the portion of the rate that has been set because of the bonds that we took out to our community, and the bond passed, and now that's the amount that we need to repay those bonds. So our rate, as we're evaluating maintenance and operations, in other words, the 29 cents is used to pay our mortgage.
That's correct.
And the 98 cents, that's our maintenance and operation. So as we look down there, I can see 98 cents is the lowest. So still impressed, by what your organization and, of course, the school district as a whole is able to do. What a significant difference there. And I'm glad that we continue to be prudent. No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So President Guerra, since this is a public hearing, if there's no other questions,
I'm sorry, Mr. Gonzalez.
Just a statement. Touching on what Mr. Nahara said a little bit, if we were to have a little bit of a windfall money coming back because the investments or whatever, the money's coming in, I wish we can really look into the possibility of increasing the payment of a loan that we're about to incur if the voters approve it, so that we can minimize their impact as soon as possible.
yes, sir,
Thank
we'll
you.
look at that every year and see if that's a possibility, if at all possible. So, Mr. Guerra, unless there's any questions, President Guerra, the board does need to solicit input from the community since this is a public hearing.
Ask if anybody wants to see.
At this time, the public is invited to provide comments on the proposed tax rate.
You need to make a line, this crowd can't.
Thank you, Mr. Ressa.
Thank you, sir.
Next item, district reports. Mr. Tom Ianton.
I didn't bring my reading glasses.
Good evening, President Guerra, Dr. Espinosa, and members of the board. I will go over the facility report, and I believe it begins on your page 10 or 11 in your booklet. The first project is in your booklet. I don't think I have a slide on it. Yeah, I do. It's Socorro High School. This project was bid, and we received 3 proposals on August the 4th. We were prepared to bring something to the board tonight, but it was a little bit over budget, and I wanted to take it back to the facility committee in September. September the 5th, I believe, is our next meeting, and review it at that time, and then bring it to the board. Next is, of course, our new elementary school. That is, we are real close to getting a signed agreement on our property. I think we've got everything worked out. I've been on conference calls for the last 3 or 4 days with developers, multiple calls, and our attorneys and their attorneys and our real estate broker, and we are real close to finalizing that resolution, and we'll bring that back to the board for your signature. And as we approved, or as y'all approved last month, the earthwork package to start the construction of the work, we are getting an access agreement so we can start that construction. And tonight, later on in the agenda, we will also look at another piece of that project that has, we are asking for a guaranteed maximum price so we can advertise those packages and take bids for them and bring back those results. The next project is Fida Chavez and Montwood Middle School air improvement. We're really moving along on that. I think, Mr. Abe, you had asked last month what the completion date was. We changed it. It's different in your book, I believe. It's actually, the contractual date is September the 5th. So is when it's supposed to be completed. So that's not too far off, a couple of weeks. And we feel very confident that that will occur. And we are at a little over 63%, actually more, but that's just what we receive in our pay applications where we compare it with our draw request and the contract amount. But that project is moving, and I believe I have a couple of pictures on that, and they're just, typical construction picture. It wouldn't tell you too much other than it's exposed ceilings that we come in there in the evenings and work, do the duct work, and then we button everything up and make it secure for the next day for classes to be held. So that's basically what we're doing at those schools. And the last project is our kitchen jobs. We are a little over the contract date on that. We've had some very heated conversation, come to meetings and things to bring that project to the closure. We were anticipating a bunch of final inspections yesterday on these projects. I am waiting to see if those have occurred, but this project will be finished up here probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And, and it has not affected anything as far as serving the kids. We have temporary lines set up, as I stated at the last meeting, and we're serving, hot meals. We're not serving cold meals or anything like that. So the work that is being done is one is in Rojas. We're dealing with the city of Socorro there, and then one that's at Cooper, which we're dealing with the city of El Paso there. Same contractor. It's a new contractor, but we've made some headways here. The last, I think our last meeting was, Friday, and we made some good strides, and they worked this weekend on the projects. That completes my report.
Mr. Guerra.
Mr. Abe.
Mr. Arrington, just to touch base here, we were hoping this project was going to be over last month, and I noticed on some of these things, we've had a delay waiting on a certified inspector from the city of Socorro and other things. So this has been weeks of delays, right? Not
Yes.
just a couple of days?
Yes, sir.
So when do you think we're going to be done now? I know you're back on track.
I think at least by mid-September,
Okay.
if not sooner than that. We had to come in and make a major change to that project. On one of them, we had to put a lift station in that went out. Fortunately enough, these monies are coming from the CNS funds, and we got approval from the Texas Department of Agriculture to pay for that through the CNS funds. So, and in fact, that lift station has been installed, as we speak.
So your thought here is these were kind of unforeseen things. These were not things that we would have worried other times?
They were more unforeseen. We had a stoppage. I quit the work back during the election time. It was also during the testing time, and they lost a good solid week there, if not more.
Great. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Arrington.
Thank you.
Next item is consent agenda. Are there any items any board members like to have pulled, please?
E3.
E3.
President Guerra.
Motion to approve consent agenda with the exception of item E3.
Second?
If I may, sir?
Yes, sir.
For the record, if you look at item E5, the
E5?
language says that this MOE pertains to Montwood High School. That should read, this is Montwood Middle School. And when it was discussed last night with the Finance Board Committee, we referred to it as Montwood Middle School. So for the record, we want to make sure that the board members are aware of that.
Will you retract your
It's a
motion?
typo.
Yes, sir. I'll retract my motion. And new motion is approve consent agenda with the exception of item E3 and with the change to E5 concerning Montwood Middle School instead of Montwood High School.
Second.
Motion was made by Ms. Nahara, second by Ms. Rodriguez. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to approve E3, Memorandum of Agreement, Emergency Medical Technician Program with El Paso Community College.
Second.
Motion was made by Ms. Rodriguez, second by Ms. Nahara. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain. I work for the college, and this is the program I coordinate.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Next item, new business, 10. Consider approval of 2017-18 district and campus improvement plans. Ms. Williams.
Good evening, Mr. Guerra, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. Every year, TEA requires the school board to review and approve the campus and district performance objectives. So you received in your packet a CD and also a link to the performance objectives. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you that the performance objectives that are in front of you are based off of the district's 5 strategic goals. They follow the SMART format, which is, let me go back there. First of all, we do have a planning review timeline in place. It shows you when we plan out, I'm sorry. Whew, okay. It tells you when we train our staff and when all of the pieces of the plan are due. The next part just tells you that the 5 directions that we follow are the district goals that are here. Goal 1 is under safety, 2 is academic performance, and then 3 is highly qualified staff, 4 is parent and community involvement, and 5 is accountability for all. What happens is that the campuses have to take those goals and using the SMART format, they have to develop the performance objectives. What you see in front of you is a sample of one of the campuses. You do have all of the campuses within your packet. The SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So they have to use that format. If there's no questions, anybody have any questions about the performance objectives?
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Ayub, second by Ms. Nahara. Any further discussion?
Yes, sir. Mr. Guerra.
Ms. Nahara?
Ms. Williams, we discussed the campus improvement plans during our policy committee. And I just wanted to congratulate your department. Yes, it is a TEA requirement that every district has our district improvement plans approved every year. But you're also going a step further by analyzing the data, seeing where improvements are needed, and going that extra step that the law doesn't say you have to do, but in order to improve our district, you are doing it. And I just wanted to thank you very much.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, 10B, consider approval of 2017-18 maintenance and operation tax rate. Mr. Tony Reza.
President Guerra, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board, the administration requests your approval to assess a maintenance and operations tax rate of 0.981640 per $100 of assessed property valuation.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Ayub, second by Ms. Rodriguez. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, C, consider approval of 2017-18 interest and sinking fund tax rate. Mr. Tony Reza.
President Guerra, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board, the administration requests your approval to assess an interest and sinking fund tax rate of 0.293154 per $100 of assessed property valuation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Nahara, second by Mr. Ayub. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, D, consider approval of resolution which officially levies the tax rate for 2017-18 school year. Mr. Tony Reza.
President Guerra, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board, the submitted resolution officially levies the tax rate for the Socorro Independent School District for the 2017-18 school year. President Guerra, the administration requests that you read out loud the resolution for the public before we have discussion, questions, and adoption of the document.
You got it?
The school district has adopted a fiscal year commencing July 1st and ending June 30th. The school district has received the certified taxable property value within the school district from the El Paso Central Appraisal District. The Board of Trustees has published a notice of public meetings to discuss the proposed budget and tax rate as required by Section 441.004 Texas Education Code. The Board of Trustees has conducted a public meeting on the proposed tax rate on August 15, 2017. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Board of Trustees of Socorro Independent School District as follows. The maintenance and operation tax rate per $100 valuation of property in the school district for the school year 2017-2018 shall be 90.981640. Number 3, the interest and sinking rate per $100 of valuation of property in the school district for the school year 2017-2018 shall be 0.293154. Number 4, the tax rate for the 2017-18 school year shall be 1.274794. Number 5, this tax rate will raise more taxes for maintenance and operation than last year's tax rate. Approved and adopted on August 15, 2017.
Yes, sir. Just for the record, President Guerra, the section that requires this is Section 44.004 of the Texas Education Code. I think you listed a 1 in there, so.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Nahara, second by Ms. Nahara. Any further discussion?
Mr. Guerra?
Mr. A.
Mr. Reza, as usual, I know we always repeat ourselves, but at this time of the year, it's always very important to say it one more time. What an excellent job Dr. Espinosa, yourself, and your staff do at managing our budget and keeping us living within our means. Certainly every campus, every department within our school district that doesn't waste any money and they look very carefully at all the expenditures allows us to go a 6th year without raising taxes. We're fortunate and we're able to give a raise to our employees. We're able to maintain our health care plan, and yet we still did not raise taxes to our people in our community. So again, thank you very much for your hard work and your dedication.
Thank you, sir. And I do want to thank Dr. Espinosa and the community, the board as well, for their direction and their guidance through this process.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Reza. Next item, item E, consider approval of traffic signal flasher agreement with the city of El Paso at GR Campusano and Rich Bean. Mr. Ianton.
Yes, President Guerra, members of the board, on page 148 of your book, we've been asked to look at that intersection of Rich Bean and GR Campusano. It's about two blocks west of Purple Heart Elementary School, and Rich Bean is a major thoroughfare that goes into that subdivision. And you take that road and then you turn on GR Campusano to get to Purple Heart. There is a school zone there, but it does not have the flashers or the overhead mask. The administration requested us to look at it. They sent in the paperwork. I had my staff contact the city, and basically the city has come back that basically said that to do 2 proposals, or to install 2 masks, 35-foot double-sided arm-type flashers that we've done at other school would be roughly $58,272 to install. That would be the school district's responsibility. The facility committee, when they reviewed it, concerns was, it was off the school property. I contacted our legal counsel, and basically the legal counsel has basically said the board must determine that the school zone expense serves the purpose of advancing education and protecting its students' safety. Administration recommends consideration of approval of this item.
Question.
Mr. Nahara?
Mr. Arrington, so once we have the flashers installed, do we maintain those, or does the city maintain them going forward?
City does.
Okay. Mr. Arrington, and thank you so much for pursuing this. I know that initially when we put up Purple Heart School, as do many areas that are growing, the traffic there wasn't that bad. And I'm sure at one time, the crosswalk and, the non-flashing stop signs were sufficient. But as things go, the area starts to grow. And we get a lot more people living in those areas. And we get a lot more people, unfortunately, in a hurry. And so hopefully the flashers will serve to remind everybody, that that it is a school zone and make it further. I've been through that intersection myself in that particular area, and so, certainly know I'm 100% confident that it does, benefit the school district and our students. I certainly believe that it's necessary. But I can't, it still frustrates me a little that we have to pay almost $60,000 for these things, knowing that we could get, something similar for almost half the price. But, we need them, and these are the ones that we're required to buy. So anyways, but again, thank you, Mr. Arrington, for pursuing this and, making sure that we're able to get them just as quickly as possible.
President Guerra, I have a question for Mr. Arrington. Mr. Arrington, in looking at the map that we've been presented, Purple Heart is on Camposano,
Yes, ma'am.
correct? So I see we're proposing the safety lights. What does it look like on Camposano itself? I can't see where the school is unless this is the outline of the school.
No, ma'am, it's about 2.5 blocks on down.
Okay, so what does the street in front of that area?
There are school zones there
Okay,
with flashing lights, but nothing over, well, I beg to differ. I think there are some flashers because we installed those through the construction contract.
okay.
But there is a school zone there with the crosswalk.
And this is just the area around the corner?
Yes.
To make sure we've got that intersection covered
Yes.
and,
The map that you're looking at, I think it's on page 151, is that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There is a couple of crosswalks. It doesn't show up very well in there, so this will help those crosswalks.
okay. And I see where the crosswalks are listed there. I just wanted to make sure we had enough on Camposano itself, and then just for the record, this is just around the corner of the street.
That is correct.
Rich Beam, which intersects with Camposano.
That is correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir. I don't have any other questions.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Nahara, second by Mr. Ganda. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, F, consider approval of lease with Branch Towers LLC and Delaware Limited. Mr. Arrington.
Yes, this is a cell tower lease. This is a new lease that the company, I think it's associated with T-Mobile, contacted us, and I gave them permission to kind of do a little study around Montwood High School. They selected that area. They looked at the church, they looked at our property, and they looked at some other property around there. And as far as potentially putting a new cell tower lease, we've been going back and forth on the lease, and in fact, there is a little change on there in the documentation that occurred as of yesterday. Initially, the legal counsel and myself sent them the kind of our non-negotiables on the leases that we have done in the past, as far as the terms, the minimum rental that the school district would be looking at. They came back with $1,000. I said that wasn't acceptable, so it's up to $1,500 a month now with a 13% escalation in it. They had 9 5 years additional renewal, and I said that wouldn't go, so they knocked that down to 5. And then they've also identified in that contract that any additional towers or service company that would attach to it, we would get so much money. I think it's $250 a month for any additional antennas that be placed on that other than theirs. So it basically follows our same guidelines of our existing leases and stuff with those 2 exceptions.
Mr. Guerra?
Mrs. Nahara?
Mr. Inkton, we didn't receive a map where at Montwood High School is it?
It's actually, it's in the back, it's by the softball field.
Okay.
It's back in the back of the building.
Okay, so it's not going to disrupt
No, ma'am.
any use
No.
of the facilities?
No, we grant them a little access. The actual lease, we had it here and an approval to sign, but there was a signature left off of it, so if the board so desires to approve it, it shows the location on the actual lease, but it is in the back of the school by the softball.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ayub?
Normally, we get these. I didn't get the agreement. Why did we not see the lease this time?
Because it was in the process. We can definitely send you the lease now since, it wasn't totally complete, as I stated, as of Monday.
Well, I mean, we can work with this. It's something we've been working through. I just get a little concerned about approving an agreement I haven't seen. And considering it's a routine thing that we do, I'm okay with it, but it would have been nice to see it.
I believe we went over at one of our facility committee, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So, but I'd have to pull that up.
Alrighty.
I agree. We usually get the agreements ahead of time so we can take a look. I'm not a member of the facilities committee, so I'm not privy to the information that was discussed. So I too would have liked to have seen the agreement prior to taking a vote on it.
Mr. Guerra?
Mr. Nahara?
Mr. Inkton, is there a sense of urgency in approving this today?
No, we can, I can take it back and, we can definitely put it together after I get the revised signature page on it and send it out. And, it can wait till September, really.
Mr. Blanco, did you have the opportunity to review the contract? Is it consistent with?
I did, and it's the same standard. But it's fine to wait till September.
Okay. Mr. Inkton, I do have one more question because you said that they came to us with auto renewals for up to 9 additional 5-year terms, and then you asked them to reduce that to 5 5-year terms, but the supporting information still says 9.
But the contract says 5.
Okay. So I think that just further demonstrates that if we could see it, we'd be more comfortable because, we've held others to kind of that same standard that we don't have with these perpetual renewals to where we commit not only ourselves, but even future boards beyond, to agreements that they would have no choice in unless, we certainly, of course, have the 90-day expiration, but with that, okay. Thanks. So then no action.
Any other questions?
So I make a motion that we postpone this item till a future board meeting when we get more information.
Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Ayub, second by Ms. Rodriguez. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry. Item G, consider approval of the Baines General Contractors Incorporated guaranteed maximum price for Phase 2. Mr. Inkton.
Yes, administration is recommend consideration and approval of the guarantee maximum price for $12,786,090 to the Baines General Contractor. This is for the Second Amendment to the guarantee maximum price. Last month, you approved Amendment Number 1, which was the earthwork. Amendment Number 2, this one will focus on the concrete work, the building foundation, the structural steel, the steel erection, and our mechanical and electrical plumbing, which is a major portion of the project. Approval of this will allow them to advertise and to take bids for these packages. And I compared the number here, as I did with the earthwork package, to our two most recent schools, Purple Heart and Mission Ridge. And the number is a little bit higher than like the earthwork package, but not as quite as high as the earthwork package. It's running anywhere from, if you compare it to Mission Ridge, it's 32%. No, Purple Heart is 32% more. Mission Ridge is 26% more. So we are seeing a little bit of increase in our prices due to the amount of work that is being presented, but we feel like this is within reason, and our earthwork package actually came in a slight under what the board approved. So there is a little bit of savings on that, and we feel like there is some potential of some saving here. It also includes a contingency fund, which we always put in there, and then hopefully the next guarantee maximum price that I bring to you in a month or so, or in September, will combine everything into our actual guarantee maximum price for the total building. Right now, we've got one for the earthwork, and we'll have this one for the concrete, steel, and mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Administration recommends approval as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Ayub, second by Ms. Rodriguez. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, H, consider approval of 2017-18 Student Code of Conduct. Ms. Macias.
Mr. Guerra?
Yes, sir. Mr. Ayub.
Ms. Macias, I apologize about this, but the late hour, but I have a question. Maybe it's something we can work towards the future.
Yes, sir.
Within our policy, we have a number of regulations here on behavior that's not allowed by students on campus and off campus. And in light of the many things that happen sometimes with social media, I looked through it again, and I apologize, I just thought of this not too long ago, so I'm kind of shooting from the hip. Why can we not have a statement on there that prohibits students from engaging in using social media with other students? The key point here would be students during school time or after school time, unless it relates to schoolwork. My thought here is, if I know there's another student, could I send a text and say, do you know what Ms. Macias's math homework was? And I could get an answer. But if I engage in other behavior that is not school related, then that would be prohibited. And so consequently, that would give this policy teeth for us to say, here we have this text from a student bullying, harassing, potentially pushing a student into something that would not be good. And we have something that clearly says you're not allowed to engage in that. I mean, if you're texting your brother, that's different. But I mean, if it's a student school-related thing, if it's just another student that I just don't like the color of your hair or what have you, is that been considered? I don't know if we can do it now. Is that something we could work towards the future? I also don't want to put steps in place because I know we're looking at this whole thing as a global thing, and these little bits and pieces make things bad. But is this something we're working towards, you think?
And as per Senate Bill 179, that is in there. We actually have cyberbullying part of our Student Code of Conduct now. Were you looking at a more specific, because it does have on or off school campus if it conducts or it causes distress to the educational environment and to the other student. So those are actually
You're quoting the policy. You have
Yes,
great
sir.
memory. Yeah, there's a couple of things here that it says, one, threatening of a district student, employee, and so forth. Okay, but the other thing is engaging in bullying, cyberbullying, harassment, and so forth. And then it goes on clearly what you've quoted on parts of this policy. But I was trying to limit the use of texting, Facebook, Twitter. I'm not familiar with all the terminology, obviously. if I'm using it with a person I don't know, just another student, or if I'm using it as a student thing, then the conversation would relate to schoolwork and student thing. What time is practice tomorrow? I don't know, do we need a permission slip for the bus? But other than that, then that should be not allowed by us. And then that way, when somebody just doesn't like your glasses or the color of your hair or something, and they do that as a student thing, could that not be prohibited, so it would allow us to have a little bit of teeth to try to impact it earlier? Obviously, if a student comes and says, look at what this student is doing to me, then we would have the ability to talk to the student or have our police services deal with it. I was looking for something specific dealing with social media. And I'm getting ahead of myself, I realize that. But
No, you're perfectly fine. We do have it in here, and 170. Thank you to my team here.
Okay,
And this is exactly the verbiage that was coming from, and we did review, so page 170 on item D. We have use of the internet or electronic communication or threatening district students, employees, board members, or volunteers, including off-school property, if the conduct causes a substantial disruption to the educational environment or infringes on the rights of another student at school.
they may feel differently, and I know the policy committee looked at this. I still would like something specific that says, if you're gonna text me, then it has to be school-related if we're not buddies. Not, this is very global, and I know we need these in general terms so that we can impact a variety of things. I'm with you on that. But a secondary statement that says, if you're gonna text me and we're not friends, or we're just acquaintances in class, then it should be school-related. If we're buddies on the same football team, yeah, we can talk about football, we can talk about movies, and so forth, but that allows the ability, when this crosses the line from we're friends to now I start to do something worse, we have a specific statement on that. I may be splitting hairs, and I apologize for that, and like I said, this is on the 11th hour, I just thought about it, and I'm not sure we need to impact it on this code of conduct because the policy committee's already looked at it, but maybe a code of conduct book in the future that's more specific.
Actually, Mr. Ayub, and we can look into verbiage. This is our code of conduct, and we can look at adding something to our policies that deal with it. But I don't know if I'm understanding what you're saying. If I decide to text someone that I just got their phone number, and I think they're cute or whatever, if nothing is...
I hate it when that happens.
Well, that happens to me all the time, so let her keep going.
Okay, well, so now I see your concern. But,
Maybe I'll drink some water. Yes, ma'am, go ahead, please, I'm sorry.
if there's no bad intent, then we can't have something in our policy that says, no, you can't text someone that you don't know. We're gonna have to look at verbiage, to use, but
it wouldn't be relevant until the other student brings it up and says, this was bad to me.
Well, and that's covered when we're talking about the cyberbullying
Okay.
through
Well,
social media.
I'm going to look at that tomorrow. I did it, so it's 11th hour, and I was just thinking about this specific, and you may be correct, ma'am, and we can, I'll certainly look at it again.
Mr. Guerra?
Mr. Nahara?
So Mr. Ayub, I certainly understand your concern, especially because these days, it's tough to anticipate exactly, and even more so, many times our rules, our guidelines, our laws fall behind. And so, but I also see Ms. Nahara's point as well, and I think if we could just say, this is a pretty substantial change, I think. This actually gives us some teeth, whereas before we didn't have any, and so let's see if it works. Let's see if this supports the enforcement that we're looking for and leads to the environment that we're after, and if not, Ms. Macias, I hope that you'll certainly let us know that we need something stronger to support, the environment that we want for everybody, our students, our staff, and the community at large, so I'd say let's give this a shot and see if we need something.
We're going to review it in a year.
Yes,
And you have
and
a lot of
Mr.
things we're working on.
Mr. Ayub, on page 186, I do feel very comfortable, because this is something that we have talked to the CBCs, I just had to find it. In this instant, it actually we have bullying. It was modified as far as the definition to a significant act, but right underneath page 186, it actually identifies the definition for cyberbullying, which is what Mr. Nahara and Ms. Nájera were identifying, which does give us that opportunity. If anybody feels uncomfortable, that in itself, once it is verbalized to administration, we're able to take action with that. And it might be a simple text that, I don't like your hair, and then I would cry, but I didn't like it, and we address it, and we're able to, depending on
comment
our
next time.
discipline. I know.
I'll try to comment next time. It's been a little tender.
And depending on the intent, it would be level 1, 2, 3, or maybe 4, depending on the instances. So that does give us a little bit more teeth. I think that's what you're sharing. And it actually provides a little bit more definition. Before, we did not have this in place. Does that help?
Let's look at it. I'm with you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Gonzalez.
Yeah, are we getting a little bit close to violating the First Amendment?
Yes and no. As far as,
Mr. Blanco says no.
and I think
No.
that is for Mr.
Mr. Blanco?
The reason I'm saying this is, there are specific laws that deal with bullying and criminal activities in any enterprise. But short of that, if you decide to go and contact someone that you don't even know or whatever, and we decide to start putting blocks in there, we very close to denying them their civil right.
Board President Guerra, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board, Steve Blanco, legal counsel for the district. I understand the concern. One of the things that we try to do in these codes of conduct and even policy adopted by the board is prepared, reviewed, and then hopefully approved by the board, is make sure that the conduct at issue has to violate some rule, some policy, someone's rights. The bullying language in here is designed and geared to protect individuals from harassing, annoying, threatening, conduct that's unwanted. I don't believe that there is anything in the current code of conduct that would prohibit somebody from, as Ms. Nájera says, we're all members of a team, I don't know you yet, I send you a text message, an email, Facebook, whatever that might be, to say, I'd like to meet you, I'd like to talk to you, we have a similar interest. That, by definition, is neither harassing, threatening, it's not interfering with the educational environment, so we would not police that, for lack of a better word. Somebody might come and say, well, I don't like Steve, I don't want him contacting me. Oh, okay, that's a valid complaint, it's brought up. I'm hopefully advised of that. If I continue with that conduct, then it could become threatening, harassing, intimidating, whatever it might be, and then we would address it and hopefully discipline for that. But yeah, we're not trying to legislate when someone can or cannot contact another person. We don't want to do that. I agree with that.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Blanco.
you.
Thank you.
Ms. Nájera.
Ms. Macias,
Yes, ma'am.
were there any other major changes to the student code of conduct?
Major, pretty much we're waiting for the laws to come into place. Senate Bill 179, we have House Bill 674, House Bill 1935. One of the other changes that we're going to meet with CBC actually tomorrow is that any student second grade or younger cannot be disciplined with out-of-school suspension. That is no longer a level 3 discipline that we're going to do. And we're going to look at our PBIS, Positive Behavior Information system that we have, and we're going to create opportunities for those students to learn, but we're not going to out-of-school suspend. One of the other ones was something as simple as we used to have it identified, I'm going to do the quotes, illegal knife. Now it is identified as a location-restricted knife. So those are some of the items that came up. A lot of it was Senate Bill 179, which is David's Law, which has to do with the cyberbullying and pretty much the bullying in itself. And there were many different entities, I think about 17, if counting. So there were quite a few changes, but every single change we've already had within our system. Just those ones that I mentioned are some of the unique ones that are new.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Nájera?
Ms. Macias, I know that as the school year started and I went through the registration process, I had expressed some concerns because, it asks us to confirm that we've reviewed the student code of conduct. And so first, I think what you confirm for me is that until we approve the next student code of conduct, the formerly approved one is still in place, right? So now
Yes, sir.
we're considering this one. Once we approve this one, from here going forward, this one is in place. But until then, I mean, we still haven't approved it. So the prior one, the 16, 17 is still in effect, right?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, good. And then copies of this are available online, or if you don't have access online, you can also go to the school and get a copy of it as well, correct?
That is correct. What we'll do, once approved, is we will send them out to print. So we are looking for September 1st to have them actually physically copied or physical copies at the campus. Once it is approved, we're also going to get it, formatted. And then what we'll do is send an email. Everybody that registered online, which is the majority, we have an email address, and we'll also send them a link online. That way, everything is distributed together.
Okay, great.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Ayub, second by Ms. Nahara. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And I
Opposed?
abstain.
Abstain.
Motion passes. Next item, consider approval of revisions of TASB Update 107 and local policy. Ms. Macias.
Yes, administration recommends consideration and approval of revisions to the following policy, TASB Update 107, which is policy DEE, and local policy DNA as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Have a motion by Mr. Ayub, second by Mr. Gondara. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 10J, consider approval of an order calling a bond election to be held in Socorro Independent School District, making provisions for the conduct of the election and resolving other matters incident and related to such elections. Mr. Blanco.
Thank you, Board President Nahara, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. Again, Steve Blanco, legal counsel for the district. And tonight, the board is being asked to consider and approve an order calling for a bond election to be held November the 7th of 2017, the upcoming end of the year election. I also have with me, in case there are any questions about the order, Paul Braden from Norton Rose Fulbright, correct? It's a long name. Here to answer any questions you all might have. Mr. Braden and his team are your bond counsel for the district, and we work with them, but Paul and his group, they're the experts in this area, and they have actually reviewed and prepared the document you're going to be considering tonight. So what you have in front of you is an order calling for the bond election. As I said, it's to be held the 7th of November, 2017. The proposed amount for the bond is $448,500,000. The bond proposition that will be covered by this will be issuance of bonds in the amount of $448,500,000 for the purpose of designing, constructing, renovating, improving, acquiring, and equipping school facilities, and the purchase of necessary sites for school facilities, and the levying of the tax and payment thereof. That's the official language. Also included within the order calling for the election are two other things that we need to make sure that you approve. One is an agreement with the County Elections Department, which we have worked with Ms. Lisa Wise on, and she's provided that to us. It's the same standard election services agreement that they have provided to you in the past for your other elections that you've held. They've included, and we've included as part of the order for the bond election, the location sites in Exhibit A for Election Day polling places. That's a legal requirement. We've also included as Exhibit B the location for the early voting sites. The times for the early voting are not yet determined by the county, so those will be updated and amended, and notice will be provided when we publish notice of the election and when the county handles that with the ballots. That will come to us in due course. If the board has any questions about the bond order or the election process, we'll entertain them now.
Any questions?
Yeah, the total amount of bond that we are seeking.
$448,500,000.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Guerra?
Mr. Nahara.
Mr. Blanco, no questions yet that I can think of, but I just want to say, certainly this isn't something that we've taken lightly. This is a very extended process that started with the Facility Advisory Committee. We thank them for their service earlier today. There was a very extensive process in which they evaluated, the current condition and the need of every single one of our facilities. We ourselves have met to discuss, ask questions. We've been provided a lot of documentation. And certainly, Ms. Macias and her organization as well have tried as much as they can to consider alternatives, adjusting boundaries. But at some point, I can liken it to when you first venture out on your own, and your first apartment is a one-bedroom apartment, and then maybe, you have your first child and you've got a two-bedroom apartment, and eventually you have more kids and that two-bedroom apartment just doesn't fit anymore. And I think that's kind of where we are. It's just not 2 kids, it's 46,000 of them. So, and many of our schools have been at capacity for, several years now, regardless of whether we've been able to, or as we've tried to change boundaries, you can only safely put so many students in a certain campus. And so I know there's been, lots of thought, lots of effort to get here. And certainly, what we're asking now the community to do is, what we're offering is the opportunity for them to inform themselves as much as we have, so that they, all of us together understand exactly what the need is. We're basically asking for a mortgage. And just like the rest of us, we can't go out there. I certainly can't. If I was going to buy a new house, I just can't set aside my entire paycheck, and all of a sudden buy the house cash. I certainly, although I wish I was independently wealthy, wishing's never going to do it. So if I wanted to buy another house, I'd have to go get a mortgage, and that's what we're doing. We're asking the community. We have the information. This is what we need, and hopefully the community agrees. It's our job at this point, I guess, to help educate the community and answer those questions. But the next step in this process is for us, certainly, to approve this so that we can move forward and see if our community agrees with us. So again, just like to thank everybody, and hopefully, as we call for this election, when we get there, they do agree. That's it. Thank you.
Ms. Nahara?
Mr. Blanco, we were mentioned earlier about the early voting dates, and it has on page 204 that the early voting dates would be Monday, October 23rd, and it would end on Friday, November 3rd. Is that correct, or are they due to
That's
change?
correct. We don't have the times. They haven't set those yet.
Okay, just the times. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Abe, second by Mr. Nahara, to approve a bond election to be held in the Socorro Independent School District. Any further discussion?
Mr. Guerra.
Mr. Abe?
I think that we've been discussing this quite a bit, and I know the Facility Advisory Committee looked at all our projects and found that every one of them was worthwhile, and I think we agree. We probably could use more for our kids than what we're asking for, yet in turn, this board, this district, and the advice that we've always gotten is to be as frugal as possible, to stretch the dollar as far as we can go, and still try to benefit our kids. And I firmly believe that having been able to sit in the background and listen to some of the Facility Advisory Committee, listening to our staff walk that committee through campuses and through a variety of issues on what some of our needs are, I think they've identified the core and the solid needs that our students need. And these are needs, they're not wants, they're needs. Whereas I don't think there's ever really a great time to do this, because all of us will have to pitch in a little bit more. I do believe there's a time that's bad for this not to do this, and things can get worse as the days go by and the months go by. Dr. Espinosa reported to us that we're already up by 700 students from last year. Last year we were up, I don't remember the number, a similar number of students from the previous year, and our growth is there. If I remember correctly, Ms. Macias reported we have 1,100 or 1,300 students on overload that every morning must hop on a bus to go somewhere else. So these are needs, and the longer we wait, our dollar is worth less, our growth continues, our decision-making gets narrowed because we get a little more desperate, if you will, to do this. So I strongly encourage this bond. We have done the best we can under the help of Mr. Iddington and Mr. Reza to sharpen the pencil, lower the number, something that hopefully is affordable by our community and more palatable. But definitely it's a benefit to our kids, and with that, our staff on the campuses and the other people. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, number 11, executive session. The meeting is to be closed for consultation with legal counsel to discuss personal and real estate matters, to consider superintendent evaluation instrument and timeline, and to consider administrative recommendations for assistant principal positions at Americas High School, Malmo High School, under Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, and 551.074. The time is 7:23. The board is back from executive. The time is 8:20. We'll move on to new business. Consider approval of superintendent's evaluation instrument and timeline.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Ayub, second by Mr. Nahara. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of administration recommendations, assistant principal at Americas High School.
Yes, President Guerra, members of the board, at this time, administration would like to pull this item from the agenda.
Consider approval of administration, assistant principal for Mountwood High School.
President Guerra, members of the board, at this time, administration recommends Ms. Lourdes Correa to assume all the roles and the responsibilities as the new assistant principal at Montwood High School.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Nahara, second by Mr. Gonzalez. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. Since there's no further business with the board, this meeting is adjourned at 8:21.
Oh, that is nice.